Okay, that said, suppose we now are educators and we are turning to curricular matters and we want to then make a judgment call. In the curriculum, do we include sex education? And if we do include sex education, what kind of sex education do we include? As we might expect, if we are dualists, then the implication is going to be that sex education is not something that we are inclined to be favorably committed to in the curriculum. We see sex as physical. We, in many respects, see that as beneath our dignity. Education should be focused differently. And so we should not have a sex education on the curriculum just because sex is not important enough on the value scale educationally that we should spend time on it. If, however, as dualists, we do say that sex education perhaps should be included in the curriculum given the nature of human behavior, and we know what teenagers are likely to be experiencing and feeling and wanting to be doing by the time they go through puberty. We can include sex education in the curriculum, but as dualists, it's going to be a very particular approach. What we will be emphasizing is a certain sexual morality that causes the students to realize that they should not be engaging in sexual behavior if they possibly can help it, that they should be remaining chaste, that they should be just saying no, that they should be practicing abstinence, and that if they are going to engage in sexual behavior, then, at least on one traditional model, it should only happen by the time they get married in the context of a marriage relationship and for the purpose of procreation. And so we'll teach that particular approach to sex education if we decide to include sex education in the curriculum at all. Now, by contrast, if we're reductive materialists, sex education is almost undisputably going to be a part of the curriculum and a significant part of the curriculum. They're going to argue that's perfectly natural, it's perfectly normal for human beings to come online sexually as they go through puberty. And so we should, in the curriculum, teach them about all of the physical changes that are going to happen to their body so they're not surprised by them, and so they know how to deal with all of the hormonal surges and the weird things that they are feeling, and the new things that they want to do with each other. And so all of that is what normal animals and healthy animals do, and so part of the education should be preparing them for being able to do so. We should also teach them the mechanics of sex, so it's not a complete mystery to them. So we know that the males have this apparatus, the females have this apparatus, this is how they fit together, this is what happens. We should also teach them there are physical consequences to sexual behavior. Pregnancy is a possibility, and if that happens, this is what's going to occur. There are sexually transmitted diseases, and that can be a consequence of sexual activity, and these are the physical consequences of those if they occur. If pregnancy is not a desired option at this stage in one's life, if getting sexually transmitted disease is not an attractive option, which it probably never is, then there are certain physical things that one can engage in order to prevent pregnancy and to prevent sexually transmitted diseases. And so perhaps part of the sex education will involve handing out condoms, teaching students how to use condoms, and so forth. And so the whole physical side of the phenomenon should be an important part of our education here. And we're not going to get all moralistically negative about sexual behavior because we're going to think as reductive materialists, so it's perfectly natural. That's what every animal species does after it goes through its version of puberty. It has lots and lots of sex while they are young and vigorous, and they bring the next generation into the world. So that's just normal biological life. All right, suppose now we turn to integrationism, and we again raise the same sort of a question here. Do we have sex education, and if so, do we teach it this way or that way, or what is the way that we're going to teach it here? Here I think the answer is fairly clear, that from the integrationist perspective, one's love life, one's sex life is going to be an important part of one's life as a human being. If it's complicated, then it should be part of the curriculum, and so most integrationists will argue that all of the physical changes, all the psychological things that go on as students approach puberty and go through puberty are a legitimate part of the educational process. And they will also agree with the reductive materialists that it's normal, it's natural, it's healthy for people to be having sexual feelings, sexual thoughts, and all of the romantic and loving thoughts that can go along with that sort of thing. And so that also then should be a part of the curriculum as well. And so students should learn about the mechanics, they should learn about pregnancy issues, they should learn about sexually transmitted diseases and how to prevent getting those things if at all possible. But for the integrationists, the sex education curriculum is likely to be more complicated, because from their perspective, sex is not purely a physicalistic activity. It's also a psychologically rich activity as well, and involves thoughts, character, emotions, values, issues of long-term commitments, and so on. And so while dealing with the very complicated sexual issues, we know that teenagers are also dealing with the complicated feelings, the complicated thoughts. How do I know whether I really love this person? What's the difference between infatuation and love? Or if I'm thinking about having sex with someone, how do I know that that person actually loves me, say, as opposed to just wanting me for my body? What kind of person should I be attracted to? If I'm thinking about long-term commitments, what kind of a person might I be thinking about possibly marrying down the road? What kind of physical attributes, what kind of character attributes, what kind of values and so forth are important to me in my life, such that I want to have another person involved in this life with me in not only a psychologically intimate way, but also a sexually intimate way. So the psychology of love and sex, as well as the physicality of love and sex, and the very tight interconnections between all of those, will be an important part of the integrationist curriculum as well. So we might have the health education class be teaching the sex mechanics issues, and perhaps in the English class we'll be reading literature that involves people falling in love with each other, and all of those explorations about who is the right person for the person to fall in love with, and under what circumstances they decide to consummate the relationship sexually, right, or not. Or if we think, I don't know if this is an exercise that you went through personally, but it is certainly is a common exercise for teenagers the world over, that when they start becoming attracted to other people and start to think in terms of long-term relationships and going steady and having sexual relationships and possibly getting married and so forth, in many cases what those kids start doing is they start writing lists of what their ideal partner would look like. And in many cases on those lists, what's on there are certain physical traits that they want: this color hair, this kind of eyes, this height, right, this body shape, and so on. But also equally important and integrated into that list will be character traits. You know, they want the person to be intelligent, to be honest, to be sensitive, right, and so forth. And they spend a lot of time trying to imagine the ideal integrated package, right, as personified in another person. That's their goal. And so part of our job as educators, when we know that students will be working through this very complicated and important part of their lives, with the appropriate discretion, give them the right kind of tools educationally so that they can do so successfully and hopefully reaching a happy resolution.